Jamb 2026 candidates. This is the question that we have been waiting for, the explanation. Based on popular demands, I have decided to explain this question and everything that relates to carbon monoxide, the way Jamb sets it every year. Carbon monoxide, they always come out because of the way carbon dioxide kills. And in this part of the world, we use generators, gasoline generators, that releases this carbon monoxide or carbon 2 oxide into our environment or surrounding. So death as a result of carbon monoxide is common in this part of the world. So let's look at the question. Get your pen and your paper to jot down everything I say, because everything I say, you are definitely going to see it in your Jamb UTME 2026. You are going to need what you have jotted down for your subsequent revision, particularly when it is 3 weeks to your Jamb UTME. Now, let's look at the Jamb must repeat question A. Jamb must repeat question A. The question reads, carbon 2 oxide is dangerous because it kills by what? A. Reacting with oxygen in the lungs. B. Forming an unstable compound with hemoglobin. C. Reducing the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood. D. Irritating the respiratory tract. Jamb 2026 candidates, what's the answer? Let's find that out. But before we find that out, let's look at the Jamb must repeat question B under the same topic. Jamb must repeat question B. The question reads, when carbon 2 oxide combines with hemoglobin, what stable compound is formed? Very easy question. A. Carbon hemoglobin. B. Carbonyl hemoglobin. C. Carbon 2 hemoglobin. D. Carboxyhaemoglobin. What's the answer? Let's find out both of the answers. Now, it's time to throw away your textbooks, because what you are going to spend hours looking for, trying to learn in your textbooks, you are about to learn it in 5 minutes. So burn your textbook, because I too know book. My head, they pay me. Book too much inside my head, and I can't wait to impart this knowledge into you, and you go to your Jamb UTME 2026 and blast this question, because you are definitely going to see this question in your Jamb UTME 2026. Now, let's understand the concept of carbon monoxide, how it forms and how it kills. How carbon 2 oxide, CO, kills, or carbon monoxide. Carbon 2 oxide, also called carbon monoxide, which is CO, is a what? Is a colorless, odorless, tasteless, and highly poisonous gas. So when you are inhaling carbon 2 oxide, you are not even going to realize that you are inhaling the gas. You are not even going to be aware that you are inhaling the gas, because number 1, the gas is colorless. You can't know that the gas is present. Number 2 is odorless. It has no odor. Number 3 is tasteless. It has no taste. And number 4, it is highly poisonous. Even at that, it is difficult to detect by human. Physically detecting carbon monoxide is difficult, because it's odorless, it's colorless, and it's tasteless, but it's very, very, very what? Poisonous, very toxic gas. The number 2 statement we have here is, it is produced from incomplete combustion of fuel. What are fuels? Fuels can be anything. Anything fuel is what you use as potential energy. Potential energy is fuel. That's energy stored in a substance. That's potential energy. The energy you have inside a substance. That's potential energy. By virtue of its position. That's potential energy for you. So any fuel, anything can be fuel, provided it has energy stored inside. That's what? Fuel. For example, charcoal. Charcoal is a kind of fuel. Petrol is a kind of fuel. Firewood is a kind of fuel. Gas is a kind of fuel. So when you burn any of this fuel in the presence of limited supply of oxygen, that's when carbon monoxide forms. Okay? But when you burn fuel in the presence of sufficient amount of oxygen, the higher oxide of carbon is formed. And what is the higher oxide of carbon that is formed? Carbon 4 oxide. So instead of forming carbon 2 oxide, when you burn it in the presence of limited amount of oxygen, it forms carbon 4 oxide because the amount of oxygen is sufficient for complete combustion. Okay, so carbon monoxide forms as a result of incomplete combustion, where there is insufficient amount or supply of oxygen. Carbon 4 oxide or carbon dioxide forms as a result of complete combustion of carbon, where there is what? Sufficient supply of oxygen. Hope I made myself clear. Then the next statement is, what causes incomplete combustion? Like I just explained, when the fuel is burnt in a limited supply of oxygen, as explained. So let's understand how carbon monoxide kills, or carbon 2 oxide. How does it kill? Carbon 2 oxide is deadly because it blocks oxygen transport in the body. It prevents the hemoglobin in your system or your blood to transport oxygen. It's very difficult to transport oxygen. And let's understand how it occurs. So number 1, carbon 2 oxide binds to hemoglobin. So carbon 2 oxide binds to hemoglobin. That's what happened at first. When you inhale it, it enters the blood, it binds with what? Hemoglobin. Hemoglobin in the red blood cell normally carries oxygen. That's the function of hemoglobin in the red blood cell. That's what gives the red blood cell red. That's what makes the red blood cell red. as a result of the presence of hemoglobin. That's why it's reddish, okay? So the hemoglobin is reddish and it gives the blood the reddish color. Carbon 2 oxide has about 200 to 250 times stronger affinity for hemoglobin than oxygen. So carbon 2 oxide attracts oxygen 200 to 250 times more than hemoglobin attracts oxygen. So when carbon 2 oxide and hemoglobin are placed in the same system to compete for oxygen, carbon 2 oxide is going to defeat hemoglobin. Carbon 2 oxide is going to pick more of the oxygen because it has high affinity. 200 to 250 times more affinity for oxygen than hemoglobin. It attracts oxygen more than hemoglobin. Then number 2, the second thing that happens is the formation of carboxyhaemoglobin. So when carbon 2 oxide binds with hemoglobin, it forms carboxyhaemoglobin. And this is the formula, HbCO, carboxyhaemoglobin. This compound is stable and prevents oxygen from binding. So the compound is very stable. Very stable. So this compound is more stable than the normal oxyhemoglobin. Because when you inhale oxygen normally, the oxygen goes through your lungs, mix up with your blood, and immediately the oxygen comes in contact with your hemoglobin, the hemoglobin you have in your blood, it forms a dative bond, and the compound formed is oxyhemoglobin. But if it was carbon 2 oxide you inhaled, immediately it comes in contact with your hemoglobin in your blood, it forms a more stable compound called carboxyhaemoglobin. So let's look at number 3. What happened? What is the result of this combination, this chemical combination? What is the result? The result is that internal suffocation. There is an internal suffocation, okay? Even if the oxygen is plenty in the air, the body cannot absorb it. The victim dies from lack of oxygen. So even though there is oxygen in the air, your body can't detect, your body can't pick this oxygen, your body can't use this oxygen because of this compound formed. This compound is like a block. It blocks that gateway of exchange between your body and hemoglobin, where that cellular respiration occurs at the cell level. So where that respiration occurs at the cell level, the cellular respiration, it prevents your cells from accepting oxygen from this stable compound, because this compound is stable. Because normally, when you inhale oxygen, we are talking about the normal physiology of the body. When you inhale oxygen through your nose, it enters your lungs, and when the oxygen dissolves in your blood, it binds to hemoglobin and it forms a compound through dative bond. The compound formed is called oxyhemoglobin, and this oxyhemoglobin is a dative bond, and it reacts immediately. It comes in contact with your cell, it reacts reversibly to give out oxygen and hemoglobin back. So oxygen is recovered, hemoglobin is recovered. That's how it continues to occur. Immediately it gets to where your cells are, it reacts reversibly and form oxygen and hemoglobin. So your body uses oxygen to produce energy, while hemoglobin remains in the blood to absorb more oxygen. So that's how the cycle continues and keeps you alive. But if carboxyhemoglobin was the compound form, when it gets to your cell, it does not react reversibly to form carbon 2 oxide and hemoglobin. No, that doesn't happen. It does not react reversibly to form anything. It just remains there and blocks oxygen from being absorbed into the cell. So the cell becomes concentrated with carboxyhemoglobin, leading to internal suffocation. Cellular respiration is impeded, so no energy in the system again, and the cell dies. The brain is usually the first organ to react to a low supply of oxygen. So that's why coma is often the method of death as a result of carbon 2 oxide poisoning. So in turn, how does the victim die? The victim dies from lack of oxygen. Now let's look at the symptoms the individual experiences before death. Okay, they include headache. So when you are inhaling it, you start getting some kind of symptoms. Okay, it does not just lead to death once, because it's something that occurs gradually. It continues to build up until death occurs. Okay, so weakness, dizziness, confusion, then the individual collapses, and after that unconsciousness. Then unconsciousness finally leads to death. When the individual is unconscious, that shows you that the brain is reacting to the low oxygen in the blood. So that's it, and death occurs resulting from coma. The patient becomes comatose. Now let's look at why carbon 2 oxide poisoning is so dangerous. Why is it so dangerous? Because you cannot smell it or see it. Yes, you can't smell it, you don't know. So if you're inhaling carbon 2 oxide, you don't know that you are inhaling carbon monoxide. The next one here is it kills silently during sleep. So when you are asleep, that's the worst. You on generator, you place your generator where there is no good ventilation, no good air exchange. That is going to lead to your death. That's just an easy death. You just die while sleeping. So if you want to get an easy death, just put on your generator in your room and sleep. Fall asleep. That's an easy death. The next statement here, it builds up fast in poorly ventilated room. Like I said before, if there is no exchange of air, there's no good ventilation, it's usually easier for carbon monoxide to build up. That's why some people can be in a room and still put on generator in that room and they stay there and they don't die, they don't get poisoned by carbon monoxide because the ventilation of the room is on the high side. So there's good ventilation in the room. So when there's good ventilation, it does not usually lead to death, okay? It does not amount to death, okay? Your body just keeps shooting them out. Your lungs keep doing the work. That adequate supply of oxygen that it's getting, it's enough for the body. Now that we have understood how carbon monoxide kills and everything about carbon monoxide, let's go back to the Jamb must repeat question A and B. Jamb must repeat question A. Carbon 2 oxide is dangerous because it kills by what? A. Reacting with oxygen in the lungs. Is that how carbon 2 oxide kills? That's obviously not the answer. The next option reads B. Forming an unstable compound with hemoglobin. Is that how it kills? That's obviously not the answer. That's wrong. Moving over to option D, which reads irritating the respiratory tract. Is irritating the respiratory tract how carbon 2 oxide kills? No, that's obviously wrong. For your correct option, option C, reducing the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood, and which eventually leads to dizziness, unconsciousness, coma, and death. Congratulations on earning this free mark because you are definitely going to see this question in your Jamb UTME 2026. Do not forget to appreciate me in the comment section if I've made the road for your Jamb UTME preparation smoother. Kindly share this video to your families and friends, and I will see you in the next lecture. Peace out.